Thanks again for having me here today. I was really honored to be able to be invited to speak to all of you about stress and its impact, especially to fellow entrepreneurs. I was looking actually at a recent Canadian poll just a few days ago, and they were talking about how about a quarter of the Canadian population that had done this poll experience a lot of stress or like extreme stress day to day. Like, that's a lot of people that are experiencing stress. So what I'm really excited today, especially, is I'm going to be able to help every single person in this room be stress-free when you leave. Okay, I'm totally joking. This is a room full of entrepreneurs. It's never going to happen. So let's just actually focus on what we can focus on tonight. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some of the basics to stress. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about kind of like the what is stress. We're going to go and talk about like what is stress and why do we experience it, because that's super, super, super key in terms of like the next level. When our next speakers come up and talk about kind of some strategies, you have to first be able to recognize it first, right, and understand what it's all about. We're going to talk about why and where we experience stress, especially in our bodies, and when. Do you like my little animation there? Okay, so you're going to see a lot of my animals in this presentation because I run a farm. I have about 40 animal coworkers, so they're going to be kind of throughout this presentation because I just love them so much. This is Sweetie up here. She's actually yawning, but it looks like she's stressed. I thought it was kind of a good picture to go along with that. So let's look at actually the basic of stress, okay? So stress, it's when our life demands exceed our perceived capabilities, and it's also a physical response to that. A lot of people don't know that. We think it's kind of common sense to understand what stress is, but it's really when our life demands exceed what we're able to do, okay? So why do we have stress? Why is it there even in the first place? When you look at stress, stress was actually designed in our brain millions of years ago. So if you look at like back when like the cave person was around and the saber-toothed tiger, that's when stress was designed in our brain. It was actually designed to keep us safe. It was there for survival. Okay, a lot of people don't know that. They think like, well, stress is just like a horrible thing to experience. I don't enjoy it. It's horrible. Why do I have it? But really, we wouldn't be here today if we didn't have stress. So stress is actually a good thing. Doesn't feel like it a lot of times, but it's a good thing. It was there basically to keep us safe, and it alerts us to danger. So what happens is when we have something that's kind of dangerous happen, our whole entire body goes into action to keep us safe. And that's why we are here today. This is actually some drawings from a storybook that I had written called Cindy and Christabel's Big Scare that talks about the kind of that stress is really a normal response. It's something that's needed, normal, and necessary in order to help us, okay? Not a bad thing. I'm going to try to do a little convincing tonight, okay? That's a little bit of my goal. I'm going to try to convince you all to actually make stress your friend, not the enemy, okay? We're going to understand the enemy a little bit more, but I'm going to challenge everybody to try to kind of see stress as a little bit of your friend. So I'm going to convince you. We'll see at the end. You let me know if I've actually convinced you of this. First, though, we want to define stress. What I want to do is I want to break it into 3 categories for you. So what I've done is kind of define stress into 3 categories. When we look at our healthy stress, this is Wilbert, my pig, by the way. He's a super cutie. So when we look at healthy stress, what healthy stress is exactly what I was just mentioning. We have something that we get exposed to that's dangerous for us or that is perceived as dangerous or harmful, and our body goes into action to keep us safe, okay? So all our body sets off a bunch of responses and it keeps us safe. But what happens with healthy stress is our body goes into action, but then it settles down nicely. It goes back into rest, okay? Just like Wilbert the pig in his mud puddle. It goes back into rest pretty comfortably. That's normal stress, okay? Then I have helpful stress. This is kind of interesting. I went to get my hair done the other day because I'm like, well, I'm talking in front of a bunch of people here. I need to look decent, not like a farmer like I usually am. Nothing wrong with farmers, but, you know, I usually am in muck boots and all that. So I went to get my hair done, and there was this hairdresser who is like a huge entrepreneur. She's run many businesses over the years, and I was explaining what my presentation was. And I was like, well, I'm going to talk to people about like helpful stress. And she's like, helpful stress? That actually exists? There's no way. And so I asked her, I'm like, well, when you started this business here, Tell me a little bit about that. And she's like, oh my goodness, I had like 2 weeks to start this business. I had to set the entire area with clothes and all this stuff and get everybody hired and all these things and all these things to start a business, which is stressful. So I asked her the question. I was like, was that helpful for you, or did that hinder you in starting your business? And she's like, oh, that was actually helpful. It drives you. Okay, so when you look at helpful stress, this is the sweet spot stress. I like this stress. Helpful stress is where it drives you. It gives you energy, it gives you motivation, it gives you focus to be productive. Okay, so that's a really good stress. That's the stress I want to be best friends with. Okay, the problem is sometimes we dip into what's called the harmful stress area. So harmful stress, that's Wendy the pig, by the way. I rescued her about 6 months ago, didn't realize she's going to be 600 pounds. She's laying on top of Wilbert, and that's how I decided to explain what harmful stress is. It's basically when we have this kind of chronic stress we're exposed to, and it gets heavy. Okay, we feel kind of a sense of hopeless. We feel like we can't manage it. It's something that's kind of chronic, and this is actually where we see a lot of issues or difficulties with like our mental health and our physical health, is when we're exposed to this chronic stress. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs in here, right? A lot of business owners. We're day to day. Like sometimes I don't even know if I'm paying my employees this month because I didn't get this check. And there's so many pressures. So this harmful stress is something that we have to be careful that we don't dip into. I have actually a live video, an actual video footage of my kid that is going through harmful stress. So I wanted to share this with you today because it's really important to kind of see what this looks like. So you can see what I have to put up with every single day, hey? You can see why I go through a lot of stress. No, honestly, she's like a cutie patootie. Her name's Silly Dilly. I just rescued her a couple weeks ago. But I like that example because that's kind of like when we're going through harmful stress, we're just like, I just need to scream. I'm going to bite someone's head off. You start to see kind of how it comes about, right? What I want to do, though, to start, remember how I was saying we're going to become friends with stress? We're going to kind of understand it a little bit better. I wanted to put this out to all of you here. I want you to pay attention. When you experience stress, how does it come out? So where do you notice it? If you think about like in your body, remember how I said that stress is kind of a physical response? Where do you notice it in your body? What are the signs that tell you you're experiencing stress? Anybody give me some examples out there? Yeah. Oh, I heard racing heart. Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry? Yes, jaw, so tension, right? Tension is huge. We're gonna notice tension kind of all over our body, right? But jaw clenching is a big one too. Or headaches, anybody here get headaches or migraines? That's me, yeah. How other stuff there, yeah? Sweating, yes, exactly, right? Just that kind of like feeling flush or sweating, right? Yeah. Anybody else? Loss of appetite. Yes. So just not feeling hungry, right? Yeah, especially, I don't know if this is familiar to some entrepreneurs, but typically I'm not eating till supper time because I'm running all day, right? And I'm like stressed and kind of moving. So that loss of appetite. Mm-hmm. Any other, sorry? Oh, sorry. I'm like, I can't see everybody. This is stressing me out. Just kidding. Shortness of breath. Yes, exactly. What's interesting is actually what you're all kind of talking about here is you're talking about kind of those short-term impacts or responses to stress, which I think is very interesting because when you think of like, remember I was telling you about the saber-tooth tiger and the cave person? We needed stress. And so actually your body goes off into these signs. And what's really neat about these physical signs that you're talking about, loss of appetite, well, it's because your digestive system's slowing down because you need to use all your energy for what you're focusing on, right? And that goes millions of years ago in our brains and how it was designed, right? The heart racing needs to pump oxygen to our big muscles to fight that saber-tooth tiger, run away really fast. So there's purpose to all of these pieces. That's why our body responds. But this is not usually the issue. It's actually these more longer-term physical impacts of stress. What a lot of people don't realize is that when you're exposed to this stress kind of chronically every single day, or even like mild stress every day, but it kind of builds up, what ends up happening, I thought what was most interesting is that increase in inflammation in the body. Now, if you think about an increase in inflammation in your body, what that means is it impacts your immune system. Anybody here get sick more often or sick longer than other members of their family? Yeah? Are you like the last person? I'm usually the last person in the family that gets sick, and it's the worst, but I gotta fake it because I'm still running my business and my 3 kids and all those things going on in my life, right? But our immune system gets impacted. Gut health. What's interesting, if you think about your gut, it's very clearly connected to our mental health. Okay, so when our gut isn't well, it impacts our mental health. You look at lower back pain, tension, right? Your body's very tense because it's kind of ready to fight or to run away from the potential danger. Heart disease, ulcers, heart attacks, strokes, there's lots of different things that stress can cause long-term if you're under this harmful stress. Okay, so what I want to do though is, do you remember how I said, I'm not really making a good case of making stress your friend, am I? Okay? And you're like, that seems horrible. I don't want to have a heart attack, come on, right? But here's the thing though, is this is where my challenge is going to be for everybody, okay? As I'm kind of winding down, what I want our challenges, let's go back to the definition. What is stress? Okay? So stress is when our life demands exceed our capabilities, okay? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And it's our physical reaction to stressor. What if we change that? Okay, what if we change that? What if we challenge that a little bit? And we have a bit of a perspective shift. So when we shift how we see or interpret our life demands and what we believe our capabilities are, we can actually experience stress differently. I think that's kind of a cool thought. There's this really, there's a psychologist that has done research on this for a long time. And what she actually looked at, she was teaching all this stuff about how stress can kill you and it can harm you and it's bad for you. But what's really interesting is that she came across this research that actually showed it's not stress that harms you. It's your perception of stress that harms you. Okay? I'll say that again. It's not stress that harms you. It's your perception of stress that can harm you. So if you see stress as harmful, as overwhelming, as it's a bad thing, and it's hindering everything you do, it's actually going to cause more damage. If you see stress as a positive thing that ignites you, that gives you passion, you're all entrepreneurs, you get that, right? That passion, that excitement, that drive in there. If you see stress as something that can do that for you, it shifts the way stress actually goes off in your body. So when you look at, I'll give you a little example, okay? When you look at your blood vessel that goes to your heart, they did a study where they exposed some people to stress, and people who believed stress was bad for you, harmful, it constricted the blood vessel that went to your heart. But people who believed that stress was healthy and positive and drives you and gives you energy, it actually relaxed that heart vessel, right? Or that blood vessel. So that tells us something, right? It tells us that how we see stress actually matters. I kind of put up my rats up here. I have my baby rats in the back, just FYI. But because that's a really good example where if you see my rats as they're going to kill you and bite you, you're probably going to have all those body reactions, right? Your stomach hurts, you're sweating, your heart is racing. This is, I can't handle it, right? But I'll challenge you. If you come back there and you do challenge it, that rats are actually super social, very friendly, amazing. They least likely to bite of all the rodent family. I try to convince everybody, I'm sorry, this is just a thing of mine. Maybe your body will react differently, right? Do you see how that works, right? How we see it will change the way our bodies react, which actually makes us more confident and makes us more relaxed, which is cool. So the challenge tonight, I want you to try to make friends with stress. Maybe even just be civil with it. But try not to look at it as the enemy. And I want you to kind of see stress a little differently, which will allow you to actually experience stress differently. So for all your entrepreneurs and business owners and all you people out there, just remember when you're lying in a big pile of poop, I won't say the other word, you goat this, okay? So thank you so much, everybody, for having me here tonight. This has been a real pleasure to be able to speak to all of you. And thank you.